welcome everyone who's joining the webinar. I'm super thrilled to speak to Michail, who is right now in his studio in Vienna. And what we do is a live webinar for re.riddle Gallery for Candace. She was so kind to invite me and to have that interview with one of her artists, Michail Michailov. And this webinar is part of the Reflect series that happens once a month to dive deep into the work of one of her artists. And just last week Thursday, actually, Michail took a group of people through his studio. It was a live studio visit for re.riddle Gallery, which was fantastic. I heard only great things about it, and we will soon dive into it. And just very briefly, Michail and me, we met in Vienna now a couple of years ago, where Michail was living already at that time, and I was running the fair back then in Vienna. And I know Michail first, so this is how I got to know him, as a performance artist. And then years later, I think it was in 2019, it was, I think, 19, Michail, when I went through the fair in San Francisco, and I didn't expect anything, and you were there. You're like, what are you doing here? And I said, what are you doing here in San Francisco? And then you took me to Candace's booth at the fair and showed me your dust drawings. And it was the booth where everyone, I think, at that fair was really much smattered and smothered by your work and by your dust drawings. And so I know you as a performance artist, or I got to know you as a performance artist, but basically you're a very, very, very famous artist for drawings and for work on paper. And well, let's just dive into it. So Michail, you sit right now in your studio in Vienna, and you're surrounded by drawings, and but you're not originally from Vienna, correct? So, yes. So I would like to ask you, and I think, so we pre-discussed it a little bit before, and I have a question for you. So, because you have a very authentic story of being an artist, starting your career in one country, taking that skill to another country, being completely enriched by what surrounded you at the time, and then moving and engaging in Paris. And basically there, this is how I learned also about, I know you knew you as a performance artist, but then basically I got a lot of information from the drawing fair in Paris, that Michail, do you know Michail? He got this prize. And I go, yes, I know Michail, and I'm very glad that you got the drawing prize. So I would like to ask you, so who are you? And what is your identity as an artist, or as a person living in Europe and frequently exhibiting in San Francisco right now?
To be honest, I love your question, because actually this is a very important question in my art, and the search of the answer of this question is one of the main issue of my artistic work. And yeah, it's a good question. And I think that no matter how many times you are going to ask me who I am, every time I probably will answer in a different way, because this is a really the big question. And I can, for example, I have the idea now that maybe I'm you, and me, you are me during our conversation. So these are questions I'm having through in my artistic process. But you asked me about my identity. So yeah, at the moment I live partly in Vienna and partly in Paris, but I was born in Bulgaria. And there is a funny story which is important for my identity as an artist, I think. It's that like when I was 10 years old, my parents actually put me in a school for mathematics with profile mathematics. And I was really upset. And this my grandmother got this, and he helped me to move in a school for with profile visual art. So finally I ended up studying visual art in a very classical way, I have to say. And then after then, on some point I moved to Vienna. And at the beginning, I was like confronted with this new situation as a migrant, not speaking the language, and having difficulty to find himself. So I for me was this. I was studying painting. For me was painting not so important anymore, and it was not the way how I can express myself. And then I had to work like all these migrant jobs, like cleaning or like kellnering and stuff like this. So one of my first projects in Vienna was to take my work as a cleaner together with a friend of mine, and to transform it in an art piece, in a movie. And yeah, actually this issue took me, actually the issue of cleaning, like in all these levels of cleaning, of course, not only the banal meaning of cleaning, catch me through the years. So finally it took me many years to start to use my classical studio again, or what I learned in my study by doing all these drawings in Paris. So it's a little bit like yeah, like
went full circle.
short story about my how I came to the art fair in Paris, for example.
So you went full circle, basically.
Yeah.
So as at the age of 10, did you know? So you were upset because you didn't get directly to the arts school, or what, were you just upset that you were supposed to go into a mathematics school, or you knew already you want to go to an art school?
Actually, maybe it was not me. It was my grandmother. She felt that actually I'm not a person who can study mathematics, or who can be good in mathematics. She saw in me all this artistic flavor. So she made this for me, I think, because she realized, okay, I'm unhappy in this situation, and yeah, this is how it happened. It was a little bit like a coincidence, more than less, because yeah, this gave me this direction, and since that moment I'm doing only art, actually.
Cheers to your grandma. I think she
Yeah.
had amazing foresight. So thank you for that. And so when I was asking about you as an identity, so yeah, you came to Vienna, you didn't speak the language, you were equipped with what you have learned in a very classical academy.
Yeah.
So how was your situation? You've started to study in Vienna directly at the university. And did you abandon drawings altogether? Or did you keep on drawing a little bit on the side? Or did you abandon and just went into the performance?
No, I was studying painting, but also drawing and also sculpture, all these directions. But when I came to Vienna, I actually decided to stop doing this. I wanted to express myself through performance, and also one of my artistic interventions, and one of my another first work is, for example, I put my name between the names of famous artists. And this was like a commercial of a Museum of Contemporary Art in Vienna. So I put there was an empty space, and I decided to put my name. And then I start to asking myself, who is actually this Michail Michailov? Is this all these famous names, or who is this person? And this was a very important moment to find out, or to start to search the answer of who I am, which I developed through the years, and doing interventions and performances, and then I was looking all the time for the right moment to use this, what I actually learned through my study, and it was like, yeah. Then I was really happy to find it, and I felt like, yeah, it's the right moment, and it fits really good in this moment to the rest of my work.
And so to again make a circle, so at re.riddle Gallery you can now go and see work of Michail being presented, and we talked a little bit about the dust paintings, and we'll get there, but I wanted to focus a little bit on your performance work. And looking at your performance work, it happens in a lot of times like in non-places. You cannot necessarily figure out where that is. It could be anywhere, right? So it's a bit like a non-place. You can't really recognize where it is. It could be, I don't know, in a playground, or in a piece of land somewhere in the US. It could be somewhere in Bulgaria. It could be as well be in Vienna. So it doesn't have a recognition. And then there is you, and in most times you actually engage in that setting, doing like you do not stand out in the scenery. You become sort of part of the scenery without focusing much attention on you, right? So it's as a spectator and as a visitor of that artwork, you become this part of a scenery. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that? It becomes, and this is what we talked about before, it becomes sort of like a tragic. You do something that is repetitive, that is part of the landscape. So you're becoming this picture. So how do you feel basically doing that artwork? And this strategy, is that something that you intend to transmit in your work?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like, it's one of the main strategies in my work. It's this, it's like this camouflage, I would say, and became part of the surrounding. And mostly these are places which are like places, I became actually like a part of a subject which is in between, like something which is in between. For example, this could be a wrapped poster which has to be changed, or a piece of wood which has to be cut and used for furniture, or I can be a swimmer who shot before jumping in an empty swimming pool, something which is in between. And I think this has also to do with my background, because I grow up in a communism time. So until when I was 12 or 13 years old, then I then it was the change. Then I moved to Vienna, then I moved to Paris. Then I think this has to do something also with my background. And with another things which is very important for my work, there are two aspects. From the one point, there is something really serious in my work, but at the same time, also very funny. It's kind of self-ironic, which makes it also gives this aspect of something which is maybe a little bit tragic. And I always also in my performances, I take this position with hanging head at the end, or the position of trying to make myself invisible. This is and which became with the time actually like a mark trait of my work. And I think also for me the good work is to find actually this balance between serious and funny at the same time. And I'm always trying to find the balance, because in my personality I have these two things. I probably have it too. So it's kind of, so my work is also metaphor of my personality, of course. That's why I think you can see this tragical.
I totally recommend everyone to go and see your work. And on the re.riddle side, I think so, like the feeling that I have is like empathy, right? So in a way, it's very, I feel empathy for you, though you do not have that, you're like not shot in a big sort of, it's not a personality you see, but you see something randomly happen. But also it's this empathy of, as sort of whimsical, the activity you do. You're like, I love the one where you actually go around on a round parking bench, you roll, and you're like, oh yeah, that looks like fun, you know, but it's like not overtly satirical. It's not slapstick in that way, but I feel you always, I emphasize, so I have a lot of empathy for the heroes, which is you, right? You're like not a superhero, but I feel a lot of empathy and this in between state of provoking me maybe also to engage in that activity. And I really love that work that you sort of also trigger a little bit, okay, I why not? Yeah, so this empathy for you as this figure performing a task that might be even ridiculous at times, right? And but I wanted to take you to another work that you did. And so you mentioned you were brought up under communism, and then you moved to Vienna, and under communism, the practice of religion wasn't allowed to do it in public. And then so you end up in Vienna, that or in Austria, and that is very much Catholic.
Yeah.
And this is again sort of it's not ironic. I mean, maybe you tell us more about it, but your project that you did close to the Stephansdom, and the Stephansdom is the main cathedral of Vienna, and you did the project where you painted "I Forgive You" close to the Stephansdom, so that everyone visiting the Stephansdom, walking on the terrace, would see the "I Forgive You." So what is your connection to religion, and how did it play out? So basically you had a concept in your mind doing that, and what was the result? So how did that conceptual project and expectation on your end actually play out?
Yeah, so actually, yeah, this project was really interesting because I was invited by art institution to do a project, and I decided to use the rooftop because it was the first thing you can see directly from the top of the cathedral, St. Stephen. And what I wanted to do is actually to start a conversation with this symbol of Vienna, and actually it's a national symbol of Austria. So for me, it was like to start a dialogue, and the sentence is written with huge golden letters, but there is a mistake. So I mean, it's more easier to explain it in German, but it's there. It's written wrong. This whole sentence, and it was funny because some of the people they thought that the church made this sentence and the church made this mistake. So they called the main person in the cathedral to ask what's happened, why this is written wrong. And for me, this is the point, because I think the mistake is something really important, and in this case, it's the forgiveness includes already the mistakes in itself, and this is something which is connected also to the society which is striving to perfection, and especially the first district of Vienna, where everything is perfect. I like this little unperfect moment, which makes you thinking, and who is this person forgiving me, and why? What did I do to be forgiven? So all these questions, and I think, I mean, religion and it's always also put questions which are like the question who I am, and why I'm here, what is how much I know about life, what is behind the life. And for me, this was like to make this more a little bit in a ironical way, of course, to make people thinking about this, and yeah, to irritating them at the same time, of course.
Just in English, so that in case you missed it. So the phrase is, I forgive you. Yeah, it's I forgive you. But for example, if, and the mistake that Michail intentionally made is to write forgive, basically replace the F in English with a V, for example. So, and he did it in German, it's exactly the other way around. So if you can read, ich vergebe dir, so instead of the F, there should be a V. And so this is an intentional mistake that Michail did. And basically it's also the big word of church, right? To ask for forgiveness if you did something wrong. And my question would be, so how did it play out? Were people sympathetic to it? Did it steer an outcry from the church? How did everyone react?
So at the beginning, they were very irritated and wanted to talk personally with me, and wanted me to explain what is this and why I did it. And after this, they decide to put a little sign with the explanation. So it became a little bit like a touristic attraction, because these golden letters, they were like they were a little bit like a mirror. So it was depending on the weather, if you can see the sentence or not. So, or it was depending on the weather if you will get your forgiveness or not. So this was like, yeah, at the end, it became as a touristic thing, which I found it really, really funny.
Fantastic. And I think, I don't know if you agree to it, but I think Vienna is a little bit like that, right? So it's first, it steers attention, but people are very much ready to go with contemporary artists and follow their lead. And also church, I think Stephansdom and many other Catholic churches actually do a lot of interventions with contemporary artists. But of course, to write Forgive You, and that has a stronger meaning, and sort of has a stronger meaning for the Catholic mind, I think, right, than any other sculpture or temporary intervention. But actually, like, say Forgive You has strong, triggers strong feelings from goers, churchgoers, actually. So but I love it that they put up a sign that's
and finally now I remember that the institution Dom Museum, which is the museum of the church, or I don't know how to say this in English, they have one of the photographs of the projects in their collection now.
Oh, fantastic! That deserves definitely to be there as a historic piece. Yes. But taking you back, or like progressing in your career, so and I think the question of migration and immigration, it's a global topic, right? And I think you are, as an artist, a fantastic example of an artist that can live and borderlessly, right? So you, when describing and talking about yourself, you cautiously mentioned where you were born and where you grew up, but it didn't sort of, you didn't stick to that identity. And I think, what have you learned from your own migration history, and now having these two anchor points, it's Vienna and Paris being this capital still of fashion, and being this very global capital of fashion, and with this very distinct knowledge and appreciation for work on paper. So how do you, as a global migrant and as a child of the international art community, how do you, what can you say about your own migration history a little bit? Like, what have you learned being an artist and being someone who belongs to different places?
What I learned is not to identify myself with the nationality. This is very important for me, and I don't think it's necessary for me, because on some point when you move from one point to another, of course you always have your background with you in a way, but at some point you lose it as well, because you get different impressions from different countries and they became part of you. And it's again about the question who I am, and am I Parisian, or am I Viennese, or am I whatever. I mean, it's a kind of mix of something which makes your identity. And it's a little bit, I can see it also in a connection with the concept of the dust, because of the dust drawings. And it no wonder that it was the first time, I mean, that it was Paris where people really appreciate them, because in these drawings it's also about this microcosmos of many things, of mix of dust for many people, which I say it's my own dust, but it's actually the dust of a lot of people. The dust which I brought with my shoes from outside, or there are different ways how this came to my studio. And finally, the product is something which is a little bit like, it's a microcosmos, which is very similar to the macrocosmos, kind of mix of different identities of different people. And yeah, it's similar to this, how I feel in my identity as someone who is moving from one place to another and is taking different cultures, or different cultures are becoming part of me. And yeah, at some point it's something new.
But just to be very clear, this is drawings. So it's not a collage, it's pure drawings on paper, correct? So, and what are the sizes is this, and what sizes? Can you talk about it? What do we see? So it's quite big. So the ones, it's like, what is it? 60 inches, I guess, for the US.
Well, for example, the big one is 1.5 meters, almost 130 to 130. And yes, yeah, I have different size, and I use colored pencils. So, and it takes me really a long time it's a long process. This what I call transformation, but it's actually I make my own composition with the real dust, and then I draw it with colored pencil for a long time, and then I make my my own composition in drawing. So
when do you do the first dust painting, dust drawing?
Yeah, this is also a nice story. I think it's a little also connected with my parents. Actually, I start with to do drawings, to do these drawings 2014, and because I wanted, I did some project in exhibition space, and it was something around cleaning. And actually, I wanted to use dust, but then I was thinking, why to use real dust? Why not to use drowned dust? And at this moment, I was in Bulgaria, in the house of my parents, and then I decided to make an experiment. So I took some dust, and I draw it on a white paper. Then I put it next to my bed. And then I called my mother to come and told her, look what I found under the bed. And she was like totally ashamed that it's, and said, oh my God, it's that dirty under the bed. So this moment, I realized that it works this illusion, and this what I really like, what happens in the mind, that it turns something when you realize it's not real dust, it's a drawing. And because it's finally it looks almost the same, but it's not. It's in way, and when you put it on the wall and when you see it as a drawing, it became a new value, and it makes something new with you, knowing that it's a drawing. And this I like this paradox, because it's very connected to how we see things in life. Sometimes it's so relative. It's a construction of the head, what we call beautiful or not, or what we like or we don't like, and why we like it and we don't like it. I like this, these questions.
No, and I'd say you totally hit the nerve, I'd say, right? So by drawing dust, and I personally know a number of people that are fans of yours, of that vision, right? To actually see, look at dust and recognize it as this microcosmos reflecting the macrocosmos. And I think you absolutely hit the nerve, not only the Parisians, but I know for a fact of many people in the Bay Area that have seen your work. And but I also wanted to, like, my next question would be, and we had a chat before, so what are you moving onto? So what is the next series of work that you are conceptualizing or you're working on? And can you maybe talk a little bit about that? I mean, I know it, but I think it's sort of a beautiful continuation coming from the dust painting to your next body of work.
Yeah, at end of last year, actually, I started a new series of drawings, which called weak points. And it's in this case, I'm inspired not by the floor anymore, but more inspired by the ceiling, because I mean, it's connected in a way with this pandemic time, because I spend so much time in my studio. Normally, I'm not used. I'm a person who is moving from one city to another. I like to move, but because of the pandemic, I spent so much time in my house, and in every time when I went to my studio, the stairs up, I was watching in the ceiling, and I'm quite sure a lot of people did this because we had the time to do it. So I start to explore things on the ceiling, and I was very inspired by the dripping ceiling in my house, and I was thinking, oh wow, this is a little bit like a metaphor for us and for all these weak points in the architecture, like for me, very similar to the weak points in our mind, in our body at that time, in our society, in this moment where we see that things are, that things are moving, the levels are moving. So I start to do this new series, which I'm showing now in a project space in Vienna called Victor Bucher. It's in kind of installation. I'm showing this new series.
Beautiful. But I mean, are you continue? Will you continue? Do you feel like you will continue doing, explore these, I don't know, mistakes, as you called it, architectural mishaps? Is that something that you set your mind onto and now you're gonna continue to explore it? Or how do you see that?
Yeah, I'm quite sure, because I like this identification with things people don't like. I like to make things visible, which people prefer not to see, because it's something like to look in ourselves. It's like there are things we actually prefer not to see, but I'm quite sure that it makes sense to see them, and this is my role, to make these things visible. And I see, I'm in my exhibition, I'm always trying to create a world. It's not about just to show some drawings. It's always about to create a philosophy. And for this, I'm using different media. So my exhibition, they look like, okay, I have maybe a new drawing series, I develop some performances from some other series, but it's always about something which is important for me in this moment, and I create an exhibition and a world around this using all these medias I use all the through the years.
Fantastic. I think this this creation of your world, and I think this is very visible also Candace's show, basically, and in the gallery re.riddle. So I think it complements, especially hear you speak about your work. You see sort of the connection line between your performance work and then your work on paper. So I'd say we're making a point. So basically I think it's time to round up. And my final question would be, we actually skipped the topic of COVID altogether. So how is the situation in Vienna, and are museums open, are galleries opening up? So how are you doing with regard to city life in Vienna currently?
Yeah, it's at the moment it's quite fine because the galleries are open and some of and shops are open, but it's still a little bit difficult. But we are allowed to go out and of course, everyone is a little bit. It's a little bit. Everyone is taking care, so it's not easy situation, but I think it's better than before the 1 month ago. So I'm quite sure that, I mean, it's for me it's also a totally a new lifestyle, because as I told you, I do not spend so much time in my studio, but yeah, it opens a new perspective also for me, and I think for everyone.
So you had time to look at your ceiling and make
for
a work out
example,
of it, which is fantastic. So
yeah.
Michail, thank you so much for drinking your wine with me and spending, what is it, 45 minutes of your time talking to me and talking about your work, which is absolutely appreciated. So, and inspiring people and continue to inspire people. And we really look forward, I mean, all your fans, including me, we're all looking to see more work of yours. And we obviously hope that you will be soon in the Bay Area and visit us here in San Francisco.
Thank you, Christina. It was really, really fun to talk to you. It was really nice. Thank you.
Absolutely, my pleasure, and hope to see you soon. Thanks everyone for joining. Thank you, re.riddle Gallery, for having me talk with Michail. It was an absolute pleasure, and well, see you very soon. Have a good day and a good night to Vienna.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.